Hello and welcome to Warframe. My name is Todd, also known as Major Mech, and this is of course Warframe. This time around, I planned initially on going into our little navigation panel here and going across Mercury, so we could kind of complete the quests that we needed to do. However, something happened. Today is consequently a Friday, and it is a Friday actually where the Void Trader appeared. Every time this happens, you can will get a inbox message when you log in, telling you that Baro Ki'Teer has arrived. And thought we had got one of these before, but I guess not. Effectively, what this means is Baro Ki'Teer, the Void Trader, has arrived at a relay that we are able to get to. So we will go check him out. There was another thing from the Lotus for another event that we didn't do, but I'm not going to worry about that. If we do that event at some point, which I'm hoping we will get the chance to eventually, I will talk more about that. But I did want to show off the Void Trader because he is very important to Warframe and the events that happen in it. So we will just select one of these at random, and we're going to go back to the relay. Nothing new inside the relay aside from Baro Ki'Teer, which I will show off, of course. And then after that we will start doing the quests, starting with Once Awake. I'm just going to skip that cinematic so we don't have to sit here forever watching something we've seen before. And we will go in here. And, okay, so once you arrive...
The wait is over, Tenno. Baro Ki'Teer has arrived.
Baro Ki'Teer will be standing in the middle of the relay, right here, and you can talk to him right away. But before we talk to him, well, actually, let's just talk to him right away.
Do have a look. Who knows? You may turn into a paying customer someday.
So effectively, when you talk to Baro Ki'Teer, he sells a bunch of different things. His stock, what he sells, changes every time he arrives. This time around he's selling a skin, a slash mod for rifles, a stance mod for claws, another stance mod for glaives, a stance mod for heavy blades, a sandana, which is effectively just like a cape, the Prisma Gorgon, which is actually a weapon that you can use, and he's also selling an entire set of the Prisma Edo skin, or Prisma Edo armor, that is. So this is armor that you put onto your Warframe. He's also selling a staff skin. Staff Sugarta. Forgive me if I pronounce that wrong. I'm not super great with these names. He's selling 3 relics, which these relics are actually vaulted relics that you can only get from Baro, at least from what I've seen. They may unvault these eventually, but I have not seen them unvaulted. So those are really worth quite a lot because you really don't see those very often. And he also sells the blueprints for a quest. Now, the quest requires, I think that's dictating that it requires Master Rank 5, so we can't really do that yet. We also don't have enough of the resources needed to purchase it. So...
Now you have something to work toward.
I love his quips. Effectively, his resources require 2 things. One of them being credits, the other one being ducats. Or ducats, however you want to pronounce that. You could pronounce them ducats, but I've always heard it pronounced ducats, so I'm just going to call them ducats. Effectively, when you get things from relics, as we got our Cernos Prime blueprint, you can sell that over at the ducat kiosk for ducats, of course, and effectively you can then use those ducats to purchase things from Baro Ki'Teer. Now there is a tutorial button right down here. I'm not going to push it because it's going to take way too long for us to do that. This sort of thing is not super important when you're starting the game. However, if you did want to get some cool cosmetics or some cool weapons or whatever Baro is selling the week of, when he comes, you want to make sure that you spend as much time as you can farming up stuff from relics, selling it at the ducat kiosk, and then buying what you need. Not super complicated, it's just a different form of resource that you can get only from the stuff you can sell at the ducat kiosk. This is pretty much the end game of Warframe, is waiting for Baro to show up so you can buy some of his stuff. That, and of course farming for primed parts, at least what of an end game there is for Warframe. But Forgoing that, we are going to go back to our orbiter, and we are going to head off onto Once Awake. Oh, I just realized I don't have a... Okay, well, I will be watching the clock. Okay. Just realized I didn't set up a timer, so if this episode runs a little bit long, you'll all have to forgive me. Swore I'd be better about that, but I seem to make that mistake quite often. Right. So, all quests, of course, are started in the Codex. Actually, before we do that, though, I did notice that we do have a foundry item. We built the rhino, one of the rhino pieces last time, or previously, so we'll pick that up. So effectively, when you pick up an item from your foundry, if it's just a part, it will just go into your inventory. You can go into your inventory and see it. Say you want to make sure what you've got, or you can just go into your parts list for the things that you're trying to build, and you can see the part right on the blueprint for the item you're trying to build. So, alright, let's just start the Once Awake quest. Okay, so effectively you come to the screen, things are happening, and we will begin. So Lotus is effectively telling us that we need to go investigate something, so we're going to go do that. Let's head over, and I find the easiest way to get to your quest objectives is to just go through that menu up there, but if you want to search it out yourself, you always can. It'll be indicated by the X on the map. Alright. I'm hoping my loading times are a little bit quicker than they were previously. I did just have some work done on my computer. Hopefully nothing goes wrong with it in the middle of a recording. That would be a real shame if it did. Okay.
I've identified several vulnerable data consoles on the space. Find them and hack in. We need to know the nature of their new bioweapon.
So...
Tenno, keep them away from the specimens.
Destroy them! Dr. Tengus demands absolute secrecy.
So Dr. Tengus is a name we will hear about later on, and the bioweapon that they're referring to is the infected enemies that we actually have run across before in a dark sector, but...
My scans are not detecting any known biochemical agents. What are they doing down here?
Usually, I don't believe you would have encountered the infestation aside from the dark sectors. So it's just kind of a quest introducing them to you. We are going to try and expedite here, though, because don't need to deal with every single zombie in our way.
You're nearing the console. Trigger the alarms now, and they will start destroying the data.
And we want to avoid that if possible. Having them destroy the data would be pretty bad. So this is a different type of room here.
You've been seen.
Well, we've been seen outside of this room. I'm not worried about that. This one, I believe the easiest way to get in is if there's a break in this window up here at top. There are some other ways to get in, but this is the easiest one I know of. And in these early missions, that will always be broken up there, I believe.
Data extracted. They won't even know it's gone.
Simple as can be. So I don't know if we've run across these sensor bars before. I think I explained them. But effectively, the field is just a problematic thing that will drain your energy, and it will set off an alarm. That right there is actually an arc trap. I don't think we've run across these before. They're like mines. They'll shock you if you get too close, proccing an electricity proc on you, making your shields less effective, I believe. I'm not positive on that. But you can just blow them up the same way you would at pretty much any other trap. Not super harmful. Probably you'll just run past them in the future. Don't really need to worry about them too much. Boy. I'm not used to my speed being so slow on my Volt. I was just playing a little bit earlier, and I was playing on a different account with a different setup, and this coming back to this where it's so much slower is definitely a change of pace. But kind of nice to take it easy on these first few parts of the game, just because it'll give you enough time to get your bearings and understand stuff a little bit more.
If you trigger the alarms now, the enemy will start destroying data.
One thing I would highly recommend is if you're ever having problems with these spy missions, there's tons and tons of tutorials on YouTube about how to do them, the easiest ways to do them, and how to get around a lot of the problems that you'll encounter while doing them. Let's see. I don't think there's a sensor bot here yet. No, it doesn't appear so. So in this one, you can go this way, and there are some consoles that you can hack to get across this area easier, but truthfully, you can just bullet jump your way across. Should be something relatively simple if you've done most of the stuff up until this point. Just come across here, and we'll hack in right quick. Later on, there will be some enemies that we'll have to watch out for in these spy missions that'll set off the alarm and
Excellent work.
can be the
Clean
kind of
extraction
the
with
end
no
of a spy
alarms.
mission before you even realize it.
Who released the specimens?
They're out! What's going on?
Stop the infested! Forget the Tenno!
Infested? This shouldn't be possible. Tenno, it is more important than ever that you finish your mission. We need to know what is going on here.
So the Lotus is of course worried about the infestation because of the threat it possesses. As you can tell, they're pretty much zombies. They kind of convert Corpus and Grineer units into horrible abominations, I suppose you could say. Like that was originally a Grineer like dude. Yeah, so pretty gnarly things. Oh, gotta remember my own advice. Never take an elevator if you can avoid it. Those things always slow you down.
You're nearing the console.
Alright.
Trigger the alarms now, and they will start destroying the data.
Alright, and thankfully because we have a bow, we can destroy these sensor bars without being detected. In later spy missions, you may need to make sure that you bring silenced weapons just to take those out. It's very useful to have. This is probably the most annoying of all the spy missions that you can do. Just because
Doors are locked. Time to break in.
the fact that you have to raise that elevator to be able to get into here. You can take the elevator down from up above, but it's not completely necessary. I'm not going to worry about releasing the lockdown until I get the information. And this
Excellent work.
tunnel
A
underneath
clean
here,
extraction with no alarms.
if it is
We have
open,
everything we came for. Get to extraction.
is usually the fastest way to get
Who
the
let them out?
items.
Was it Tengus?
Tengus did this. I know he did.
Someone released these creatures on purpose. They want them to destroy you. Override successful. Let's get going.
Might have been talking over that little conversation there a little bit, but that's okay. So Dr. Tengus is again somebody we'll hear about later on. Dangerous individual, but I don't think we've actually seen him in game yet. There's a lot of talk about him, but no actual appearance of him just yet. And I mean that in-game, not just from what we've seen, but in all the quests combined. I don't think he makes any appearances, at least not yet. He's talked about quite a lot, though. But we are ranking up quite nicely here. If we can get that Paris up to rank 30, we can trade it out for our Boltor and actually start doing some good damage. Might actually have to start thinking about what we want as our secondary and our melee weapon next as well.
Tenno, we have an emergency situation developing. It's more infested. Get to the node I've marked on your navigation console.
Alright, let's take a look, see how much time we spent here. We spent an okay amount of time. Let's try to finish this next one, and I think we'll call it after that. Not super difficult. Shouldn't be too long, I wouldn't imagine. Most of these quest parts are much shorter than you'd think they are if you rush through them. So don't be afraid to take your time if you really want to see all the stuff you can. But one thing I see a lot of newer players doing all the time, which can get on the nerves of some...
This Grineer ship tried to flee the infestation, but was quickly overrun. Exterminate everything on board before it reaches a more populated sector.
On the nerves of some veterans is they'll often spend the time to open all these containers, walk around, and just take as much time as they kind of well please when doing the mission. But not to say that it's a problem to do that. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want to play the game that way, that's perfectly fine. It's just, if you're getting into the much higher level stuff, say near the end of the star chart, most people...
Grineer may have thought they could toy around with the infested, but they are quickly learning how wrong they were.
Most people understand and have kind of a basic understanding that the speed of which you go and complete these missions is more critical than just picking up the random stuff in loot containers. Because most of the time mission completion rewards are far better than anything you could pretty much get out of a loot container. Usually. Not always, but usually. Let's see. Just a basic extermination mission. Only have to kill 67 things. Should be able to do that quite quickly. And honestly, with our buddy Taxon keeping us alive, we really haven't had many problems with anything as of late. And you'll kind of notice that I favor heavily into any Warframe or ability that allows us to survive better. Just because I think, being able to survive is pretty critical. A lot of people kind of throw survival to the wayside for things like damage and other abilities, but for me, survival is pretty critical. I will pretty much always run with as many mods that boost my health and armor as I kind of can, and I'll typically prefer frames that have more durability to them, just because I prefer that sort of playstyle that gives you enough time to think about what your next move is. So if you don't prefer that sort of playstyle, don't be afraid to check out some other people who much prefer other ways to play. Though Volt isn't the tankiest frame, so I'd say that Excalibur is actually probably tankier than he is.
Died off with the Arkan. For hundreds of years, there was nothing. Now this. Where did the Grineer find these creatures?
That will be something hopefully we find out later. I believe there's a lot of information about the infestation in the Codex. I'm not positive on that though. Oh, Ancients. Not the best. So, one big thing about Ancient Disruptors that are very annoying is that they reduce the amount of time you can control them or crowd control them. So if you hit them with something that would stun them, they will be stunned for a shorter duration than other enemies. Back onto the Volt versus Excalibur point though. The main reason I chose Volt over Excalibur though is just because his ability to shield you from damage with his third ability, and his fourth ability, which is a fantastic ability throughout the game, coupled with the fact that you can pretty much build his abilities for any of the 4 abilities that he has and be effective, makes him, I think, personally a better choice, just overall. Whereas Excalibur, while he's good, is very situational in the later parts of the game. Volt, on the other hand, is not. Volt can be taken into pretty much any higher level mission with little worry as to...
Their ranks and they are on the run. Another successful mission. Find extraction.
With little worry as to how you're going to do performance-wise, Volt will always perform greatly, and your team will pretty much always be happy to have another guy making you quicker, because speed in the end of the game, as I stated earlier, is pretty much everything. And you can get a lot of tankiness just by being able to dodge attacks with that speed. I think Volt really kind of shows that off better than anyone. His ability to move quickly allows him to really kind of trivialize a lot of the game itself. But we'll be focusing on Rhino later. Alright, well, we've completed that mission, and the quest continues. What will the Lotus have us do now? We'll take a look at that, and then we'll probably end the episode. Hopefully next time we'll be able to complete this quest and then start the Hell of the Kubro quest. Let's see. Okay, so use this to our advantage. Dr. Tangus reports. I'm not going to bother to read all this. You can take a look at it if you want to by pausing the video. I don't think you guys really need to have me read to you. The words are right in front of you. And effectively we got Molten Impact, a pretty good mod. We'll probably be buffing that up maybe after what is it? The pressure point, but that's a big maybe.
I must
Alright.
say, these infested are very worrisome.
The subtitle for Ordis there was kind of messed up.
The Lotus would like you to install that mod as soon as...
Now!
She wants us to install that mod right away. Alright, so fire mods and infested have a very interesting reaction. We will throw it on instead of Northwind for the moment. They stun the infested quite heavily, and the infested take a lot of damage from fire mods, so it'll be useful to have it on our sword for the moment. The next part of the quest will have us defending a bomb, but for now we will call this an episode, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.